Welcome to another episode of the Miami Real Estate Show. Today we have a very, very special show. We've had in the show, as you know, the top agents in Miami, top brokers, and many of the big developers in South Florida. However, today we have the pleasure to interview one person that has been a real estate agent, a broker, and definitely you know him as one of the top developers in our industry, Edgardo Defortuna. Edgardo, thank you very much for being here today. Thank you for having me in your beautiful J Signature Development Sales Centers here in beautiful Sunny Isles. Welcome to the show.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. Now, to get started, I want to learn a little bit more about Edgardo, the business person, but how you came to the United States, how old were you, the reason you came, and how you became involved in the real estate industry.
Like many things in life happen for different reasons. I mean, there is not a single reason, but originally when I came to the US, my sister Stella, who's a medical doctor.
Where are you from?
Argentina. Right. I mean, I grew up in Argentina. I was born in Buenos Aires and grew up in Córdoba, arguably the second city in the country. And I had a great life there. I mean, I had still great memories, and in many ways, I still feel Argentinian, even though obviously spent significant part of my life here in the US. But going back to, she just graduated as a medical doctor. I had just graduated as an electrical and mechanical engineer, and she wanted to do specialization here because, of course, medicine here was very much in the far front of technology and everything. So she decided to come, but my dad was very old-fashioned and would not let her come by herself. So, so she convinced me that it was a great experience to come for 3 months to the U.S. and to enroll at the University of Miami as a English as a second language type course. And so we both came, and I said, but it's only for 3 months. I'm not sure how you do it. If you want to stay longer, you deal with that, but I'm going back. I love my life there. And really, I always say they're still waiting for me to come back, because after 30 plus years here, I really fell in love with many things that make Miami and in the U.S. very, very special.
How old were when you first came to study with your sister?
22, 23 years old.
23 years old. And how did you get involved with real estate?
Well, after I went through the intensive English course, the way to stay in the United States, I really made a decision that I wanted to at least explore life in the U.S. So the easier way, both from an immigration point of view and from what to do point of view, was to continue the study. So I enrolled in the University of Miami as to get my Master in Business Administration, Excellent. My MBA. Okay. So I stayed for 2 years doing my MBA, and while doing my MBA, my father and some of his business partners and friends own some property here in the U.S. and specifically, obviously, in Miami. That was in the early '80s, was evolving into getting more Latin Americans to buy and invest in Miami.
Completely different market at the time.
Completely different, but in some ways, the beginning of a similar market that we still enjoy today, which is an attraction to the foreign buyer that needed to diversify or to invest in safe places in the world because of political situations, economic situations, whatever the case might have been. There was a wave of Latin America thinking about Miami and going to a safe haven, both economically and socially. So I started managing their units while I was at the University of Miami, and soon realized that very few people in the broker community were paying very significant attention to the Latin American buyer needs. Of course, they help them buy and sell, but they really didn't manage their properties. They didn't inform them properly. They didn't communicate with them in the way they needed to be communicated. They didn't.
Which, by the way, still the case today.
Hopefully we'll do a better job at that, and of course the market has grown.
But the general real estate agent, he sells the property, but they don't take care of the client after the sale of the property in terms of managing the property.
Yeah, in a way, figure out that you need to understand the needs of the client, which we continue to apply even today in our development projects. I mean, we're not developing for ourselves, we're developing for whoever is buying. So you really need to listen to what the client needs. And at that time, anonymity was a very big issue because for safety reasons or for whatever reasons they didn't want to or they couldn't tell in their country nationals that they own properties here, so you have to keep all the records here and provide them information when they were, and you couldn't call them and say the tenant has a problem with the refrigerator. You needed to resolve that issue and then inform them when they were here. So that led me to believe that there was a very big niche of a market that was not really attended well, and specialize on that. And later on,
you opened Fortune International at that time, or not?
At that time, obviously, in order to get into the real estate business, you need to first get a license. So I got a license, and I placed it. I was living in one of the newer buildings that had just been developed in Brickell Place.
Definitely, yes, the Ford buildings. Yeah.
Right. And there was an agency in Brickell Place from an older quote-unquote man at that time for me that was 20-something. He looked older. Today he was pretty young, but in the prime of his life.
Okay.
But he had a company called Brickell Place Real Estate that really took basic care of the building in Brickell Place, so that the owners, which was over 1,000 units. So I placed the license with him. He had relatively small office of 10 to 12 agents, concentrated mainly on Brickell Avenue. And I guess he saw my potential and saw the things that I was doing, and eventually 2 or 3 years later, he said, "Why don't you work out a deal to buy me out?" And I said, "Well, I don't have anybody to follow my footsteps," he said, "so maybe we can work out." And I said, "But I don't have that much capital in order to be able to do that." So we worked out an agreement to pay him as the company produced. He, I guess, saw the potential. And that transaction showed me that he was a better salesperson, a better real estate agent than an owner of a real estate company. I mean, most of the smaller companies at the time were formed by great agents that surrounded themselves with 5 or 6 more agents, but eventually ended up managing their agents and not doing what they do better, which was selling.
Two different skills,
right,
managing and selling.
Right, and nobody was really managing the small companies on a professional level with planning and with trying to figure out what the movements are next. So that took us to identify another property on the Brickell corridor about the same situation, 2 ladies that owned the company and had 10, 15 agents that basically were spending a lot of their time managing rather than selling, but when we proved them, and when they dedicated themselves to sell and potentially getting some overrides from what we produce if they let us manage the company, they would have been a lot better off. So worked out 2 deals there and one one deal on Key Biscayne with the same situation. And so when we bought 3 different companies with 3 different names, at one point me and my brother and sister sat down and say, we have a fairly large company that nobody really knows that we're all the same. So we decided, it was kind of a funny story too. I mean, what do we name this company that is getting bigger now? And it was obviously having the last name Defortuna sounded pretty good. We talk about Fortuna, and we said, well, but we really, eventually the plan was growing into obviously all the market segments, not only the Latin segment. Right. And we had a guy that, and one of the agents, as a sort of a joke, had his name was Felipe Blanco, and he had 2 business cards, one Felipe Blanco and one that said Philip White when he had American clients. So we said, let's do as Felipe Blanco did and Americanize our name. And of course, Fortune it's a great name to begin with. So we concur in calling it Fortune Realty, and that's what, of course, then expanded into acquiring other companies. And
So, but that's the dream for many real estate agents, to become brokers and have their own firm. You grow Fortune International to one of the biggest and most important real estate companies here in South Florida. But then you took another step, which is becoming a developer, which is a completely different business, all right? And not only you became a developer, which is, well, building some units here, some units there. I mean, we're talking about buildings with hundreds of units, all right, in different markets. It's just not one building. I mean, you had it Jade in Brickell, which is a humongous, very luxurious building. We have Jade Signature here, Jade Ocean. So how do you make that transition from broker owner, which is more difficult and operational than real estate agent, but now becoming a developer and a large developer?
It obviously it's easy to be told in a short period of time, but it takes a lot of time and effort. And as we were saying before, I mean, before even being an owner of a brokerage company rather than selling on your own or being a great salesperson, it takes both different business models and two different personality and skills. And not necessarily being an owner, you make money or more money than being an agent. And it's a question also of your lifestyle. I mean, obviously an owner requires a lot more commitment, a lot more risk, and a lot different set of skills and different times of effort, because I have great agents in my company that work when they need to work, and they play when they need to play, and they have a great life, and it's a dream, and they never even think of owning or taking the responsibility of owning, because they really understand what they do. They have
they have a unique ability, and they explode that unique ability.
And they do it very, very well, and I applaud them.
Do you have a mentor in the process of becoming a real estate agent, broker, and developer? Maybe your dad, somebody in your family, a client?
There are different, you learn a lot from contacts with different people, and we're in a great business, and where, especially in the luxury end of the business, you meet very, very interesting people, very, very successful all over the world. So if I can tell you, I had a great influence from my dad. My dad was really a very, very hard-working man that put a lot of effort into things, and he taught me that there is no replacement for effort. I mean, that you can be as intelligent as you can be, and be the smartest guy out there, but if you don't put the hours in the chair or in front of the desk, as he would call it, really the chances of being successful are relatively small.
Like the saying,
you can get lucky once or twice,
exactly.
but reality, and you see it through thousands of examples, the ones that are really successful are people that really, really dedicate themselves to it. And there were a couple of big advices that I always keep in mind, which is, when you think that your day is finished and you're about to leave, look at your stuff and make one more call.
Okay.
Or do one more thing before you think that your day is over. And that translates into take the extra step. Always try to do a little bit more than what you think when you think you're done enough, try to do a little bit more. And another thing, especially applied to the development aspect, is I'd rather you be wrong by not doing something that you should have done than by doing something that you shouldn't have done.
Okay, explain that to me.
Meaning, there are many opportunities through like anything, real estate has cycles, and when you are tempted to do things that in your gut are not the right timing or not the right thing, but because you're in the momentum, you said, oh, let's do it. I mean, what could potentially happen? Those are the things that when you make the bigger mistakes. So in analyzing a new deal or in analyzing a new project, you have to think, what's the downside of doing this? And of course, if there is any sensation that potentially you shouldn't do this because the downside is too big, I'd rather say geez, I should have done this because it would have been a great success. I'd rather be doing that than by doing something and saying, oh, I regret having it done.
So basically from that experience is always analyzing and making sure that you understand the level of the downside and putting a limit on the downside before making the decision.
Correct. I mean, and again, and it's better to be wrong by not doing it,
Right.
and potentially you could have made a lot of money by doing it, but the downside of doing it and being wrong is significantly more.
Especially in the development.
Well, especially
right.
on this type of magnitude of developments.
Excellent.
But,
Excellent.
But going back to your original question on what does it take to take it from an agent to an owner to a developer, after we consolidated ourselves as a good brokerage company, I felt that there still was a piece missing, which was we were waiting for people to come here to take care of them. But buyers, so especially foreign buyers. And I said, why don't we, rather than waiting for them, let's go and try to get them and to educate them. Because I saw that there was a big group of the population in the countries that were feeder markets for this, that really didn't have that clear how easy it is to own and to buy real estate in Miami. They all thought that if you were a U.S. citizen or a resident, things got significantly better for you, and it's really not the case. I mean, the United States policies and make it almost the same to buy a property if you're a foreigner as if you are a U.S. citizen, and the ability to financing is maybe 1 or 2% higher or lower, but it's still very much available to foreigners, and the tax treatment is the same. So. The legal structure is very, very simple. So all those steps and educating and finding those buyers and making them feel comfortable that not only we knew the market and we knew the product, but also we could help them make their lives easier, because it's the same as I was saying with managing their properties. I mean, people didn't buy properties because they didn't want the hassle of managing. When you solve that, it was a lot easier for them to buy properties. If you solve the problems of legal structuring, financing, and providing the advice on the great product, people have the money. You need to make it easier for them to.
But the question, and maybe there is not a one answer, maybe there is a combination. I mean, I do at least 2-3 seminars per week. I get hired to go to South America and do a lot of seminars and meet a lot of buyers, people that want to come to South Florida and invest. Agents, we have thousands of agents that we train that want to become top producers, brokers, and then developers. But very few, counted with my hands, with one hand, that actually become. Is there anything, any characteristic in your part, any way of looking at things, any way, a habit that you do on a daily basis, the way you look at business, that truly allow you to exponentially grow every aspect, the brokerage, the development, the real estate? Because most people just struggle working every day. They work hard, but they can't scale their business. Is there anything? Maybe there's no one thing, maybe there's a combination.
Of course there is a combination of things, but if I can narrow it down to one thing, it's understanding your customer. Learn from your customer. What does the customer need?
Paying attention to their needs.
And especially on the development side. I mean, we all developers kind of have the problem of thinking that we're building this for ourselves. And the reality is, of course, we have to like it, and of course we have to do what we want to do, but it's not for us, it's for the buyer, it's for whoever is going to live there. You need to understand what lifestyle the buyer wants in order to provide it and for them to make it attractive. So it really is all about the customer and all about where's the customer going to come from, what type of characteristics does that customer has, and what type of lifestyle that customer wants. If you can understand all those things, it becomes a lot easier to hire the right team, to develop the right property, and to eventually sell it and be successful at it. So, and it's the same thing if you're a developer, if you're just a selling agent. You have to understand what the customer is looking for. So listening to the customer is the key to our success at Fortune, because I'm sorry to interrupt you, but and the progression of being a broker to being and the second step from being a broker was being in development sales, which is a little bit different than a broker.
Right.
I mean,
you work exclusively for a project. Right?
We not only sell our own projects, but locally we sell for a lot of our co-developers or for our partners and friends in the development community. I mean, we sell a lot of the projects for in combination with Related, but many others also hire us because they do understand that we understand what the customer wants, and we provide more than sales.
How do you? And that's another step that I forgot, which is real estate agent, broker representing large developers, then developers.
Exactly.
So there are agents that understand the clients, or agents that work very hard. Is there anything in particular that allows you to organize your day or your team, or hire the right people, or hire more people, so you can leverage yourself and exponentially grow in such a short period of time compared to what people take a lifetime just to become a good agent, or developing their brokerage firm, and they stay with 20, 25 agents for 30 years, right? Anything in particular?
Obviously the biggest...
Or the vision, what vision do you have from the beginning?
There is a lot of planning that gets involved into this. I mean, you do have to have a vision and a business plan that potentially can change. Of course, it will change depending on market conditions and a number of things. But you have to have some sort of a guided plan in place that you're planning to do with your career and with your life and with your business opportunities. But the key component is to see, observe what's going on, and adapt to those type of situations. Because if you're not flexible,
so paying attention what's happening in the market. People also get involved into working and don't pay attention.
And people are in many ways individualist. I mean, and I'm almost the opposite. I surround myself with great people around me. The team at Fortune is second to none. Not only on the sales side, but on the marketing side, and on the financing side, and even on the planning side. I mean, the team that we have, I'm so proud of it, because they've been with me in many cases for more than 15 years, and they really understand our philosophy. I mean, it's...
So surrounding yourself with the key right people, so you can leverage yourself and let them do exactly what they need to do, and you concentrate on your vision.
And empower them to do so. Because many people, especially successful businessmen, are very controlling. I mean, certainly a lot of people in my team said that I listen a lot more than I speak, and it's definitely true. I mean, you go to development meetings and they...
You're the quiet one.
I'm pretty much the quiet one, and
I've seen you speak in public, and when they ask you, you answer, but you don't have to.
Which is somewhat unusual for a salesman, quote unquote. But you gain so much more power by listening to what the people are saying, and then trying to create something or input in something of what you see around that discussion. And they tease me that we're 9 in the development team, and everybody speaks and they give their opinion, and then I have 10 votes, and so whatever I say, it's done. But it's certainly with a lot of input from them. And then, of course, you need to, at one point, make a decision. And sometimes you're right, and hopefully many times you're right, and sometimes you're wrong. But surrounding yourself with the right people and getting their feedback and empower them to do things, it's the key to success. You can't do it alone. There's no way.
We have one saying in coaching when we train the agents is, if you don't have an assistant, you are one. Because people want to do everything together, right?
Absolutely.
So what is Edgardo Defortuna working on right now? We're sitting right now in Jay's signature in beautiful sunny Isles just across the ocean. Tell me a little bit about this project first, Jade Ocean, beautiful, amazing, huge building, very luxurious. And then what else it's Edgardo working on?
We've been very fortunate to be able to not only acquire some of the greatest sites in Miami, but also surround ourselves with the best minds in the world, not only in the U.S., in the world. When we were able to purchase this site, which is 300 feet of ocean front, which coincidentally is right next to two other projects that we built, Jade Beach and Jade Ocean, really gave us the opportunity to even take it to the next level. And as anything in your life, you always try to make it a little bit better, and again, to learn from what the customers really want. So having 300 feet on the ocean gives you the possibility of doing something spectacular. So how do we achieve that? First of all, by trying to identify who the more creative minds in the world are, and we were very fortunate to go to Basel and meet Herzog and de Meuron and their team, because if there's such a thing as a company that has teamwork, I've never seen anybody do it the way they do it. I mean, because Herzog and de Meuron are very, very talented, both of them, but they have a team of young professionals that sit around the table and throw ideas and build scale models within 20 minutes of what they think that this should be like, or what the solution to that specific problem will be. And then you have to give them a plan. You have to give them your criteria, your requirements. You can't let the architect dream without something concrete or something that has a base to stand on. So it comes back again to listening to your customer. By building two buildings right next door within the last 8 to 10 years, we knew what the customer wanted. We knew what the benefits and the faults of those two buildings were. And so we love to live in Jade Beach or Jade Ocean, but unfortunately the pool is disconnected from the beach, because the pool is in the 4th or 5th level on top of the pedestal, and then you have to either take a big stairs or an elevator to go to the beach. So when the kids want to go to the beach and we are at the pool, we're broken apart, and the amenities are not in contact with nature and the beach. So, so we posed that problem to Herzog and de Meuron, and they said, and why don't you build the parking? Because there is a parking requirement, so there is no way that you obviously going to take cars even higher. So there. Why don't you put the parking underground? It's done in Europe all the time. Yeah, it's done in Europe, but this is the ocean. It's right next to the ocean. How do we do
water
it?
Water a few meters below.
As soon as you go 8 feet down, you have the water. And so how do we keep it? There are many companies that do this with 10 stories right next to a river in Germany or in France or whatever the case may be. So we really study who the company that is capable of doing this, and came up with great solutions. And you go today and you have 4 stories underwater, and it's perfectly dry. There is not a drop of water anywhere other than potentially rain that falls in sometimes. And
how many units we have in Jade?
We have 182 units in Jade. So the solution, of course, all of those are have benefits and have problems. The time to build an underground parking is very time consuming. It took us 8 more months.
Expensive too.
And it's much more expensive. But again, listen, would the customer pay for it? Would the customer be more attractive because it's that? Another complaint that we have was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun is hidden because your own building blocks the sun.
Exactly.
And so what did Herzog and de Meuron does? Does a sun study for 360 days of the year, 24 hours.
Really?
And figures out that if you twist the building, as you can see,
that's great.
Instead of having now, just by doing that minimal twist of it's not perpendicular to the, or parallel to the water rather, but has an angle twist. Now you have sun in most of the pool until 4:30 in the afternoon. So just by doing A little bit like that.
A twist, yeah.
But we said, but we don't want the units looking sideways. And they said, you don't need to have the units looking sideways. You can have the straight unit as we have.
I see it.
The unit is straight. The only thing that's sideways is the balcony. So we have direct ocean front units that only has a triangular balcony and a very big one at that. And it really solves all the issues that people have. The same thing with they were saying, we don't want columns inside our bedrooms or living rooms because it really makes it very difficult to furnish and
the space is not the same. Right?
Exactly. So give it to them, and they said, okay, we can put the structure outside. So there is all the structure in the building are those curved columns and that.
Right.
But there is no single column inside the units. There's only the core where all the elevators are and the emergency exits, and there are columns on the outside of the perimeter of the tower. So and why do they not only the people say, oh, they look really nice because they're curved. They're curved. Not only the balcony, but the column you can see it curves up. And it's great aesthetically, but also it's great for treating the wind conditions, because the wind, when it does that, it doesn't fly all the way down the building. It doesn't hit the building. When they hit the building, it moves, so it alleviates the wind on the balconies, because most of the time here in Miami, balconies are hard to use because of wind conditions.
And especially if you're on a high floor.
Right, so this alleviates the wind. So there's so much detail going into a project of this magnitude that when people are explained that, and from that to the double glass, so the insulation is, it's both in noise and thermal characteristics much better. All of those details make the building stand out and be successful, and really that's what we try to.
So this is your proudest creation up to now in terms of development.
Yeah, I mean we're very lucky because in today's market we have 4 buildings under development. Jade Signature,
right?
Then we're developing the Ritz-Carlton residences.
Exactly. Yes.
Here also in Sunny Isles, at the entrance of the Sunny Isles, a spectacular site.
Did you develop Miami Beach too or not?
No.
No. Okay.
So we're in partnership with the Chateau Group. We're developing the Ritz-Carlton residences here, and we're developing 2 projects in partnership 50-50 with Related.
Okay. Where?
One in Fort Lauderdale, the Overs Beach in Fort Lauderdale.
Definitely. Yes, of course. In that area, which is growing tremendously.
Magnificent project, great design,
Yep.
and it has a tremendous success.
Right.
And then
and that area is growing so much right now.
Before we were looking at Miami and we were saying Fort Lauderdale is still.
And the price per square foot compared to Miami, which is the same water pretty much.
It's a great value in Fort Lauderdale, great architecture, great. I mean, it's the only building that is on the sun, because most of the buildings in Fort Lauderdale are across the street from the beach. And the last one is the Hyatt Resorts beach in Hollywood that is right also on the ocean. It's going to be completed.
Very familiar with that building.
So, as I was saying, the good thing about it is that they're all under construction. They're all significantly sold. They're all with 50% deposits from the buyers, and they all have a construction loan to complete the building. So we're in a great position, and as I was saying before, of not doing what you shouldn't do, or be careful on what the next step is. We are seeing how the absorption of the rest of the product continues to be, and then we're going to decide on when to launch the next project. But
how do you see the South Florida real estate market right now, as of today?
I think
November 2016.
Continue to see it very, very strong. Of course, we were very spoiled by the great successes that we had 4 or 5 years now, but it's almost impossible to sustain. The reality is that if you're driving 100 miles an hour, yes, you can take a few turns, but at one point you're going to crash. And so you need to, at slow down. And
very good point.
And if you go to any other market to sell in a project 8 to 10 units a month, it's a tremendous success. And here we're saying, oh, the market's slow.
Right.
I mean, yeah, it's slow, but at least in Fortune, in October we sold $74 million just in development sales. 48 units, $74 million. So 48 units, it's not a bad. I mean, just forget about the 1,000 agents that sell at least the same, if not more. But so it's the idea that the market is dead is really not fundamentally sound. But certainly it's lower than in the peak of the market. Of course,
but it's natural. It's part of the cycle.
Of course.
Have you seen a shift in the type of buyers that are coming to South Florida?
Yes.
We always had the South Americans, for political, social reasons.
And we continue to have them.
Right,
People are saying, South Americans are somewhat disappearing. I mean, again, the last report that I got from the last 3 months, it's 56% of all the units that we sold in Fortune are Latin Americans.
56%?
56%. So it's still a huge amount. So yes, if you're asking me, North America it's getting more active, definitely yes. From the point of view of dollars, it's about 30% of all the dollars that we sell are to U.S. buyers. But for the number of units, it's only 17%. That is, U.S. buyers are buying more expensive, bigger units.
Right.
And why? Because they have more ability to finance. They need.
They have the currency, the U.S. currency.
The problem with Latin America and in
depreciation
Europe,
of the currency.
The currency has lost a lot of value,
including Canada. I go to Canada every quarter, and it's cheaper and cheaper to go every time.
Yes,
definitely. So, in terms of marketing, that's the final question before I ask you what advice you would give to agents. Are you doing something different in terms of marketing? Because I know you guys go a lot to South America. Are you going to any other country? Has the speech or the presentation changed in terms of approaching the buyers?
You have to always monitor what the potential feeder countries are, and they change from time to time.
Which one are they?
They even change in Latin America. I mean, sometimes Argentina is very strong, sometimes Venezuela is very strong, and 8 years ago Brazil was very strong. So
right now it's what, Brazil and Argentina?
Argentina continues to be, and it's almost a matter of perception. It's not even the reality, because the optimism in Argentina and the optimism in Brazil has risen very significantly in the last 3 or 4 months. And when people feel good and they perceive that they're going to continue to make money, they invest or they diversify. So it's great for Miami. But you also have to monitor some other potential influence of some other markets that you can get. I mean, Turkey is a great example. As soon as they, 6 months ago, they put a direct flight from Istanbul to Miami, the market has taken off in Turkey, and it's the second or third trip that we're doing to Turkey in
Why
the last 6 months.
That's something that surprised me. All of you developers were talking about Turkey and the Turkish buyers.
The political situation and safety situation in Turkey is really bad. So the wealthy person, it's almost having the same mentality of the all Latin American, which is, I'm going to buy something in the US, and Miami is very attractive, the climate is great,
close,
the social life is great, the activities are getting better and better. I mean, Miami has grown as a city in leaps and bounds. So really, they identify with the lifestyle of Miami, and they want something on a safe haven in the event that they decide that they need to spend more time away from their country. And again, the convenience of being able to go back and forth, and you have to see those shifts in the potential countries and take advantage or try to concentrate on attacking, because it's a very difficult time now to figure out where you place your marketing dollars. And you were saying, what do we do different in marketing? Of course, today electronic marketing and information is so
social media and then
prevalent.
online marketing.
Online marketing. I mean, you have to, of course,
start with
the people. 90+% of the buyers start by searching on the internet. I mean, the first thing they do is start by search. So have a great, not complicated, informative website. It's very important.
Very good.
And also from the development side, or from the development sales side rather, we sell a dream before it's a reality. So, and people have very little imagination. So you have to show them the dream. And you can do it in many ways. But of course, having a wonderful sales center with a model that gives them a perfect idea of what the unit is going to look like, it's obviously a great tool. But now the designs of electronic equipment, like we just introduced the goggles that you wear those, and you can literally walk through all the common areas, all the 3 floors of the common areas of Jade, and feel like you're in there.
Do you have them here in the
yeah,
center?
yeah.
Oh, no, I'll have to try it before I leave.
Certainly you can explore it. I mean,
Okay.
it was a hit sensation not only on the Real Deal show, but also when we travel. I mean,
that'd be great.
When you
Okay.
travel, how do you
I'm
tell
excited to
people?
see that. Okay,
Oh, it's
good.
amazing.
All
I mean,
right.
the people flip.
Okay.
It's really, I mean, because we've done it as we always try to do it with the next step into quality and attention to detail. So they're really
Very nice.
There are some virtual tours that are good and some they're not that good. This one, it's amazing. So
Very nice. Very nice.
And I'm not sure if you saw the movie that we put together. That was a while ago already, but explaining all the things that I explained to you about the details of why things are done this way. So people need to understand that, and it's the process of selling today. It's a lot more competitive. People come here and they go there and they go there and they compare 5 or 6 projects.
Which is, by the way, something that I hear you say 2 weeks ago at the Real Deal event, which, by the way, was an amazing event. Got to go to that event. Your input was amazing. You said something that really captivated me, was people are really bad at determining absolute value, but they're very good at putting the real value on comparable value. So you were explaining, can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'm not sure what...
I think if I say, okay, Jay's signature, it's X amount of money at 3-3 bedroom, right?
Yes.
Absolute value, I might say it's extremely expensive, or I might say it's extremely cheap, but I might be way, way off, right?
Yeah,
but if I compare it to other products, it's always to, when you have a buyer, make sure that you compare it to other products so you can actually highlight.
Yeah, but we've been
benefits,
reading about prices in Miami has come down.
Right.
I mean, and a 3-bedroom unit that we sold at $3 million is now $2 million. But they're not comparing a 3-bedroom here with a 3-bedroom here. They're comparing, we as developers, of course, adjust to market conditions. So when the currencies were shifting, we started building smaller units, other projects, even including the Ritz-Carlton, for instance. If you want to buy a 3-bedroom here, it's approximately 28 to 3,000 square feet. The 3-bedroom at Ritz-Carlton, it's 2,200 square feet.
Okay.
So in absolute value, prices, this is more expensive. But if you compare on price per square foot,
That's my point.
The Ritz-Carlton is probably more expensive per square foot than this, and has a different type of condition. So you can't just blind yourself by saying even comparing price per square foot on a direct basis not always tells the story, because certainly the finishes, the lifestyle, the quality of the product and attention to detail varies from product to product, and not to say that mine is better than the next. I mean, it's depending on what you want and what you really focus in, and what your more important key characteristics of acquiring something need to be in order for you to make that decision. But today, the reality is people compare, and if you're not able to show them what you have and explain on a clear way what your dream was when you build this, before you can take them up and show them physically, which is what we do on a day-to-day basis, because locally the Miami market gets pre-sold very significantly before you even put a shovel on the ground. So you have to be able to show and communicate and be able to for the buyer to understand and interpret what you're trying to sell them. So the marketing becomes a huge element into all that, and that's why you see this elaborate sales centers all the time, and if you can do a model unit, and if you can do a kitchen sample or a bathroom sample, you show them all that, because that's what the people want to know, what they're going to get for their money.
One more question before we go, and of course, all the information about Jade's signature is going to be in our footnotes. It's going to be on our website with high definition pictures. I would advise you to come to the sales center, see this beautiful, not only the beautiful building, the beautiful area, and how it's grown so much in the last few years.
Yeah,
right?
Sunny House is
it's incredible.
It's incredible. The transformation is incredible.
So my last question is to you very quick. What advice would you give a real estate agent today in 2016? What would be the number one advice? I mean, after being a successful agent, broker, developer, what would it be?
Find what you really like and put a lot of effort into it. I mean, really, you have to have somewhat of a plan, as we were saying.
To specialize in something?
Right, find your niche. What are you good at? Miami is so big today that you can't be specialist on everything. Who are your friends? Who's your
center of influence?
Centers of influence. Who can you attract that will benefit from your services? Because don't expect them to use you because who you are. You need to provide some value to them. I mean, so prepare yourself. The market is a lot more competitive today. If the buyer thinks that knows more than you do, and they have all the information there
happens very often.
Happens very often. People think that, and in the good old times, it was almost like taking orders. It didn't matter. They wanted to buy, so you didn't need to be so prepared, or you didn't need to work so hard. Today, it's a different environment out there, and the ones that succeed and the ones that put the more time, the more effort, and they're better prepared. So it really learn from the best, take influence and see what works on others, but identify what works for you. Identify what you think your particular strengths are, and try to focus and potentiate on them.
Edgardo, it's been a true honor and pleasure to interview you here in the beautiful Jade Signature Sales Center. Not every day, as I said, we have the opportunity to interview a successful real estate agent, broker, and developer. So I hope you really enjoy this interview as much as I did. And until next time, make it a very, very productive day. Take care, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Orlando.
If you're listening or watching this episode, it means that you want more knowledge, clients, money, and of course, better business and life. You know that your ability to plan and execute is essential to your success as a real estate agent or broker. So here's how you build a remarkable real estate business. Over the past 15 years, we have coached and interviewed thousands of agents and 30 of the top agents in the country, including number 4 and number 7 according to Forbes and the Wall Street Journal. And we've discovered that they all do different things and they do it in different ways. But they all do the major things exactly the same way. So let's start with what they don't do. They don't do cold calls. They don't call expired listings. They don't just send postcards. What they do is 100 times more powerful than any of those things. And even now, hardly any agent or real estate broker understands the strategy. The Masters in Real Estate Sales program from the Montiel organization gives you the opportunity to discover and implement those strategies and develop a plan customized for your business. This is the advice, the training you wish you had years ago. In an industry where, please listen to this, according to the Florida Association of Realtors, the average income of a full-time agent with 12 years of experience is $28,160. So you must definitely have a clear and simple strategy that actually works. So go to our website, montielorganization.com, or call 305-305-5965 to find out how you can build a remarkable real estate business.